In 1989, a young child dances on stage in front of everyone, receiving a lot of applause from the audience. She seems very happy with it. It is Emomi who has a passion for dancing, receiving applause, and being famous. In 1993, she still had that passion for dancing. While she is enjoying her dance in her room, her mom comes in. She tells her she can't be a singer or dancer with these looks. As she grows older, her looks get uglier. Upon reaching high school, she also comes to know that she really can't get famous on stage with these looks. When she dances on stage, everyone mocks her, calling her ugly. No one talks to her, but they ask her to step down so that they can see others dance on the stage. She seems jealous of watching others on stage. It's 2009, and she finds herself living a life she never desired. She is working as an accountant in a company. Her appearance remains unchanged, yet the desire to dance on stage still burns within her heart. However, she devises a clever plan. After her day job, in the quiet of the night, she transforms into someone else. With makeup and fancy attire, she wears a mask and goes live on social media to dance. Her performances gather numerous hearts and bring in earnings. Additionally, she engages her audience with live streams, playing games, and providing entertainment. Anonymously, she shares her life and seeks advice, forming connections in the virtual world. But in the morning, she wakes up and sees her ugly face again. She gets ready and takes the crowded train to reach her company office. There, she faces rude behavior from her coworkers once more. Miss Sang reminds her that her face is getting rougher day by day. Mr. Kim and Mr. No never give her as much importance as they give to the new junior employee, Ms. Ariam, who is attractive and cunning. Ariam makes coffee for senior employees in the morning to win their favor. But Emomi doesn't like her. Instead, Emomi admires Mr. Kong, their boss. He is handsome, kind, and professional. When Ariam offers him coffee, he initially refuses, but later accepts it, advising her against such actions. Emomi spends her days imagining Mr. Kong and stealing glances at him in the office, even as he busies himself editing his abs pictures for social media. However, the unfortunate truth is that Mr. Kong is already married. During a meal with coworkers, Mr. Kim shows Mr. Kong how people are earning these days on social media by offering entertaining services. The most famous of them all is the mask girl. After dinner, Mr. Kong leaves early because his wife is unwell, and he needs to go home. While he's trying to get a taxi, Emomi approaches him and asks to share the taxi because she recently moved near his house. Mr. Kong agrees. During the ride, his wife calls and asks if he's alone. He replies that he is, even though Emomi is sitting next to him. When they reach their destination, Emomi wonders why he lied to his wife, suspecting he's conscious of her. Later that night, as the masked girl doing her live stream, she shares the whole incident with her audience, involving her boss. One member of her audience suggests that she's just imagining things about her boss, and that there's nothing romantic going on. Then she recounts the day when she complimented Mr. Kang's perfume scent, after which he started wearing it regularly. But still, her audience believes she's going too much into it. The next day, Emomi is working late in the office. Only Ariam remains, still working, while everyone else has left. After finishing her tasks, Emomi bids farewell to Ariam and heads for the exit. However, upon reaching the gate, she realizes that she left her card in her cubicle. She retraces her steps back to the office to retrieve it, but she unexpectedly finds Mr. Kong there. Curious, she grabs her purse and follows him. Upon reaching the office, she witnesses Mr. Kong and Ariam engaged in a passionate kiss in the office. Mr. Kong apologizes to Ariam for being distant during the day, not wanting their co-workers to suspect favoritism. The entire scene leaves Emomi feeling overwhelmed with emotion. She walks back home to her place, crying the whole way. Upon arrival, she drinks a large amount of alcohol, crying and eventually vomiting into the commode. Then, she puts on her mask and starts her live stream. Dancing with great energy, she eventually removes all her clothes during the performance. The audience in the live stream reacts intensely, heavily commenting on her body and expressing admiration. However, she goes to bed without reading the comments, as she's too intoxicated. The next morning, upon waking up, Emomi discovers that her account has been blocked due to violating live stream rules. Deeply saddened, she becomes upset and begins slapping herself, repeatedly saying that she deserves to die. The next day, during lunch in the office with her female co-workers, Emomi reveals the affair between Mr. Kong and Ariam, but asks them to keep it secret. However, news of the affair spreads quickly throughout the office. becoming the talk of the day among both male and female coworkers. The following day, Mr. Kang is absent from his seat. A coworker messages Emomi, informing her that Mr. Kang has resigned from the company and Ariam has been fired. As Emomi leaves the office, a coworker named Mr. O approaches her while they wait for the elevator. He attempts to speak to her, but as the elevator arrives and many people are already inside, Mr. O remains silent. They enter the elevator together. Outside the office building, Emomi sees Mr. Kang in a distressed state. He's heavily drunk and expresses a desire to end his life. Emomi takes him in a taxi and heads towards his home, but Mr. Kang remains silent when she asks about his address. Suddenly, it begins to rain, prompting Emomi to seek shelter in a motel with him. Inside, she undresses him, and they both end up sleeping on the same bed. The next morning, Mr. Kang wakes up first and is startled to find Emomi beside him. He hastily dresses and leaves the motel without saying a word to her. When Emomi arrives at the office, she notices Mr. Kang's chair is empty and takes her seat. Soon after, she receives an email with the subject, "I know you." Opening it, she discovers a picture of the masked girl with a message stating, "I know you." Shocked, she closes the email and goes to the restroom hastily. There, she reopens the email, where she finds a naked picture of herself wearing the mask. Additionally, she sees all the comments she received during her live stream when she exposed herself. Upset by what she sees, Emomi is deeply troubled. After leaving the office, Emomi texts Mr. Kang, expressing her desire to meet him. However, Mr. Kang apologizes for their previous encounter and declines her request to meet. Later that night, Emomi logs into her still-suspended profile. She opens a chat with an anonymous user named Prince. As she converses with him, she finds him to be very welcoming. She shares her thoughts of wanting to end her life, but he convinces her otherwise. Unknown to Emomi, the prince is actually Mr. O, her coworker. He is sitting in his apartment and texting her anonymously on his computer. Mr. O has been the target of bullies since his childhood. Due to his chubby physique, everyone made fun of him. He has been alone all the time since his childhood. He used to play with himself by watching illicit videos. His life is all about his office and this illicit stuff. Even now, he is alone. On his birthday, he gets a cake for himself. He claps for himself and then cuts it. He has placed a doll in front of him, his companion in his loneliness. He gives himself a gift through the doll, and he thanks it for the gift. The gift is an adult toy, which he then uses to give himself pleasure. Meanwhile, his mom calls him. She doesn't remember his birthday either. She just reprimands him by saying that he is a bad son. He doesn't care for his mom, and he doesn't buy her new clothes. He even doesn't have a girlfriend and can't give a grandchild to her. She also reprimands him for his little salary. Mr. O canceled the call by saying that he had to attend a meeting. The next day, in the office, he is sitting alone for his lunch. He doesn't have the courage to see girls in their eyes, so he always focuses on the hands of ladies. When Emomi gives him a file while talking to him, his focus is on her hands, which have 2 moles on both hands at exactly the same place. Plus, she has colored her nails green recently. At night, when he sits back on social media, his favorite service provider is the masked girl, but this time, he comes to see that she has exactly the same 2 moles on both hands at exactly the same place. Also, the nails are colored green. There, he comes to the conclusion that it is Emomi behind the mask, who is hiding her lack of beauty. Now, he observes her everywhere. At dinner time with coworkers, he focuses on her. During the presentation, Emomi focuses on Mr. Kang. He focuses on her. When Emomi takes a taxi with Mr. Kang, he looks at her from behind. He always makes her feel special on the chat by saying that people who are not beautiful from the outside are more mature and understanding, and those who have faced rejection in life are better people in society. In the office, Mr. O sees Emomi watching Mr. Kang all the time. He even practices proposing to her by standing on the rooftop. The night when Emomi was working late with Ariam in the office, he was the third last person to stand from his seat to go home. But he went out, waiting for Emomi to come out. In the meantime, his senior came there and asked why he was there, but before he could answer him, he told him to go home. Meanwhile, he saw Mr. Khan going inside the office again. Also, Emomi was going to the office again. He was shocked and followed them, but inside, he saw Mr. Khan and Ariam together. Seeing this, he felt very happy, because it was not Emomi having an affair with Mr. Khan. On that day, he went home with a smile on his face. At night, he is dancing while standing in front of his desk. His front wall is full of pictures of Emomi with a mask. After some time, Mask Girl comes online. She is not in a good condition. Her heart is broken. Mr. O tries to convince her that her love for him is not the end for her. She should experience real love with him. But the Mask Girl is drunk. She starts dancing and then removes her clothes. He doesn't want this. He covers the screen and is also very angry when people comment on her. In the morning, during office time, Mr. O goes straight to Emomi. He tells him that Mr. Kong is married and doesn't deserve your love. He says that he loves her and that she should be with him instead of a married man. At this confession, Emomi touches his face with love and compassion. Then, she kisses him. But then, all of a sudden, his co-worker wakes him up from his dream. He was dreaming all this while sitting in his office chair. At the elevator, he tries to talk to her, but due to the large number of people there, he can't talk. Outside the building, he sees Emo meet with Mr. Kong when she is helping him in his bad condition. After witnessing Emo meet with Mr. Kong and putting him into a taxi, Mr. O's heart shatters. He hails a taxi himself and asks the driver to follow Emomi's taxi. Upon reaching a motel, he sees Emomi taking Mr. Kong inside, further deepening his depression. The next morning, consumed by jealousy, Mr. O sends an email to Emomi containing the Mask Girl's picture, along with the message that he knows her. That night, he receives messages from the Mask Girl expressing a desire to end her life. Despite his attempts to persuade her otherwise, the Mask Girl logs out. She walks down the road. Her face is concealed with a black mask and oversized sunglasses. Suddenly, a guy from her audience named Handsome Monk approaches her. Despite her attempts to avoid him, they end up in a restaurant for food. Mask Girl hides her face from him, but he insists on seeing it. He loudly tells her to remove her mask in the restaurant, and eventually, she agrees. Once the mask is off, Handsome Monk tells her that she's naturally attractive and charming. He suggests she should go to America, where girls with prominent cheekbones are highly praised. Mask Girl admits to wanting facial surgery, but Handsome Monk argues against it, insisting she's already beautiful as she is. They end up at a bar, enjoying each other's company and having a good time. However, when Emomi goes to the restroom, Handsome Monk posts on social media that he's with the Mask Girl, claiming she's uglier than he expected but teasing that he'll soon taste her. Mr. O, seeing these messages on Mask Girl's timeline, becomes furious. He tries calling Emomi, but she doesn't answer because she's busy with Handsome Monk. Mr. O takes a taxi and rushes to the restaurant, where Emomi and Handsome Monk are present. However, Handsome Monk persuades Emomi with his charming words and takes her to a motel. When he is alone, he regrets having to purchase an expensive room for her. Meanwhile, Mr. O is searching for them on the road. Emomi, inside the room, notices missed calls from Mr. O, but doesn't take them seriously. As Handsome Monk returns to the room, he sits Emomi on the water-filled bed and attempts to kiss her, but she refuses. He then tries to use force, prompting Emomi to retaliate violently. Angered by her attitude, Handsome Monk demands a refund for the expensive room. He also insults Emomi by saying that she is so ugly but still has a lot of attitude. Enraged, Emomi confronts him and slaps him. In retaliation, Handsome Monk throws her onto the bed and attempts to force himself on her. Emomi fights back, hitting him in the groin and freeing herself. A struggle ensues, causing both of them to fall violently from the bed. Handsome Monk's head hits a nearby shelf, causing severe injury and bleeding. Distressed, Emomi is unsure of what to do, contemplating calling an ambulance but also noticing Mr. O's messages, warning her that Handsome Monk is just using her. Mr. O calls her, and she answers. When he arrives at the room, he's shocked by the sight of the injured man and the blood. Emomi suggests calling the police, believing they'll understand that Handsome Monk intended to assault her. However, Mr. O warns her that she could face jail time for manslaughter. He confiscates her phone to prevent her from calling the police, and insists she go home while he takes care of the situation. Reluctantly, Emomi agrees and leaves. Mr. O wears the rain suit and takes the body into the bathroom with a big knife in his hand. He has already emptied a big suitcase. He starts cutting the man's shirt, but suddenly, he moves his head. The man is still alive, but Mr. O, in his confusion, stabs the knife into his chest. His hands are shivering, but he continues stabbing the man until he is dead. In the morning, Emomi's seat is empty. Mr. O learns from one of his co-workers that Emomi resigned this morning by making a phone call. He gets Emomi's address from the company and goes to her place with all her belongings. He rings the bell, but she doesn't open the door. He returns home, but then he sees on his computer that Emomi is going live for the last time. so he quickly rushed back to her place and forcefully knocked on the door this time. Emomi opens the door and lets him in. When asked about her job, she explains that she wants to start over. She can't go to the office and live a normal life with the memory of that night in her mind. Mr. O tells her she should forget him as if he were a cockroach. She expresses her desire to erase all those memories. Mr. O asks if she also wants to erase him from her memories, to which she answers positively. At this, he becomes angry and violent, grabbing her and throwing her onto the bed. He then unzips his pants and tries to force himself on her. She doesn't resist and allows him to do what he wants. Mr. O notices her eyes behind her mask and sees that she has bandages all over her face. She has undergone plastic surgery, completely changing her face. Suddenly, Emomi takes control over him, grabs a pointed object nearby, and stabs him in the neck. She continues to stab him, saying that he is just like other men who want the same thing from her. And Mr. O bleeds to death on her bed. In 1974, there's a woman named Kyungja. She is the mother of Mr. Onam. She married a man who had a permanent job. He didn't seem like a bad man at the time of the wedding, but after some years, Kyungja discovered that he had been having an affair with another woman despite his very low salary. So, she raised her only child, Onam, alone. Being a single parent, it was very difficult for her. She took on various jobs, such as mopping public bathrooms, delivering food, and driving a taxi. Eventually, she was able to open her own restaurant. She appears to be a tough and experienced woman with a lot of energy to succeed in life. She also seems like a cunning and sharp woman. However, she couldn't make her son resemble herself. She noticed that things from Onam's bag were missing, and sometimes he had injuries on his body, which he falsely claimed were due to falls while playing. Occasionally, she even found bubbles in his hair. She arranged for him to receive prayers from a religious person in hopes of helping him. He seemed to be a very diligent student, but underneath his study books, he was always reading adult stories. Kyungja thought he would become a doctor, but his destiny took him down another path. In 2003, when he got a job, he told his mother that he wanted to live alone. The commute from his job to his home was a 2-hour ride, and he didn't want to waste 4 hours traveling daily. Despite his mother's reluctance, mentioning the hardships of being a single parent and how she had raised him, he stood firm and moved to a new place. He even refused to let his mother come to his place, not even for food. Disheartened, she returned home every time he didn't let her in. Kyungja tried to sever all ties with him, hoping he would become emotional and return to her, but he didn't even call her once after that. After many days passed without contact from Onam, his mother brought the police with her to his new place. They broke the lock and entered the room, where they were met with a foul smell as if dead rats had been there for a long time. Inside, they found many adult toys, a dirty room with scattered belongings, and a full-size doll in his bed. Suddenly, a police officer cried out in fear upon spotting a dead body cut into pieces and packed in the suitcase of his bathroom. Kyungja, believing it was her son, fainted on the spot. In the investigations, it came to be known that it was not Onam but some other male. Police officers told Kyungja this while she was in the hospital. She is thankful that her son is still alive. The officers then ask her about his last contact, and if there is any enemy of his because they suspect that he is the murderer. But when the police officers express their concern that he can be the murderer to his mother, she becomes very angry. She says that he can't even kill a bee. He didn't go into medical because he couldn't see blood. So how can he kill a man? After interviewing Onam's co-workers, the police officers find some weird resemblances between the disappearances of Emomi and Onam. So, they visit Emomi's former residence, which is now empty. She had sold all her furniture before leaving. The apartment owner informs them that Emomi was always alone. She never saw her with a boyfriend. Occasionally, she would play music, dance, or sing, but otherwise, she was all alone. The owner also mentions Emomi's recent plastic surgery, as she had bandages on her face when she was leaving. When the police officers attempt to visit Emomi's mother, she refuses to open the door for them. The news of a dead body found in Onam's apartment goes live on TV channels. Due to the illicit toys found in his room, the police suspect he was not a normal man and had higher sexual desire, possibly implicating him as the murderer. Kyungja hears all of this on her TV but refuses to believe it. She decides to take matters into her own hands. She hires a technician to unlock Onam's computer. However, since she doesn't know how to use a computer, she enrolls herself in computer classes to learn. After learning basic computer skills, she searches for the masked girl online and reads their previous chats. She discovers that Emomi, Onam's co-worker, is the masked girl. After that, she locks her restaurant and goes in search of her son. She withdraws all the money she has accumulated throughout her life from her bank. On social media, she chats with another follower of Masked Girl and comes to know that Masked Girl may have undergone plastic surgery. He shows her a video where a lady is dancing in front of a store as if she were a cheerleader. They believe that she is the Masked Girl after observing her figure and appearance. Next, she goes to a morgue and sees a dead body. It was Onam's body. Seeing this, she becomes very sad and starts saying that Masked Girl did all this to him. The police found that body on a hike. It was also found cut into pieces and packed in a suitcase. At Onam's memorial, she gave a very fervent speech and received applause from everyone. Then, she goes to Imomi's mother's home to ask about the whereabouts of her daughter. She rings the bell repeatedly, and when no one answers, she hits the gate violently. Eventually, the maid comes to the gate and informs her that she didn't even know her employer had a daughter before hearing this news. She explains that Imomi left home a long time ago, and her mother is unaware of her current location. The maid warns her that if she doesn't leave now, her employer will call the police. Meanwhile, Imomi's mother appears on the roof. Upon seeing her, Kyungja uses very offensive language. As a result, Imomi's mother calls the police, and Kyungja has to go with them. The other day, while talking about her son with other ladies in her locality, she breaks down in tears. Afterward, one of the ladies mentions a fortune teller who is believed to have knowledge of everything and can do anything. Intrigued by this, Kyungja decides to visit the fortune teller. She pays a significant amount of money and asks about Imomi's whereabouts. The fortune teller provides her with a location in the west. Kyungja follows this lead and arrives at the building where the cheerleader was dancing. She enters the building and shows the picture of the cheerleader to everyone, pretending to be her mother and expressing a desperate desire to meet her. She learns that the girl has been promoted to another agency. Kyungja obtains the contact information for that agency and goes there. However, the men at the agency inform her that the girl left the job in search of better pay. When Kyungja asks about the nature of the new job, they imply it's the kind that requires a better figure and body. So, she visits nightclubs in the area that night, showing the cheerleader's picture to every club manager, but fails to find her. While stopping at a stall for something to eat, she notices a beautiful girl. Kyungja suspects that she is the cheerleader girl. She takes out the picture of the cheerleader and compares the faces, realizing it is indeed hers. She follows the lady until she enters a motel. The manager stops Kyungja from entering that motel, so she returns to her car and waits for the girl outside the motel. After some time, when the girl comes out and takes a taxi home, she follows her. Upon reaching the location, she observes from a window that the girl is not alone there and lives with someone else, so she waits until morning. When the girl leaves in the morning, Kyungja follows her to a beauty salon, where she sees the girl getting her hair washed and receiving other services. Kyungja also gets her hair washed. She notices a necklace around the neck of that girl, which seems familiar to her. Later, she goes to an internet cafe and searches for something in her son's data. She sees pictures of Masked Girl wearing the same necklace. Now, she is certain that she has found Masked Girl. She goes to a taxi company and rents a taxi. Then, she meets an arms dealer, pays a large sum of money, and gets a powerful gun. In the night, she returns to that motel with her taxi. When Masked Girl comes out, Kyungja gives her a ride, and they start driving. During the ride, Kyungja asks her age and reveals that she is the same age as her daughter. Kyungja then asks her to retrieve her phone from under the seat. As she bends down to search, Kyungja makes her unconscious with a taser. She takes her to an abandoned location, ties her hands and feet, and waits for her to regain consciousness. When Masked Girl wakes up, she starts crying for help, but no one is around. Kyungja asks for her name, and she replies that her name is Chun-hee Kim. Kyungja slaps her and shows her a photo of her son, but she doesn't recognize him. Kyungja then puts a mask on her face and matches her face to the photos of Masked Girl. She aims the gun at her and says that she is Imomi, because she has the same necklace as the Masked Girl in the photos and a similar face with the mask on. At this point, the girl starts laughing and says that she thinks she knows the girl named Imomi. We see Chun-hee during her school days, when everyone used to make fun of her due to her weird name. She was introverted and didn't talk to anyone. There was a boy named Buyong in her class whom she liked very much. He was her first love, but she never talked to him in school. After a year, while she was working at a general store, Buyong visited the store. Buyong recognized her and expressed happiness at meeting her. He convinced her to let him and his friends buy some alcohol, even though it was not allowed at their age. But Chun-Yi reluctantly agreed. After that, Buyong's visits to the store increased, mostly for his own desires. But Chun-Yi was happy to finally meet him somehow. One day, as she was leaving the store after her shift, one of Buyong's friends approached her and invited her to Buyong's birthday celebration. He was there to pick her up at Buyong's request. She agreed and went to the birthday celebration, where his other friends were also present. Buyong thanked her for coming and made her drink alcohol for the first time in her life. After the celebration, Buyong asked her to lend him some money. It was a large sum, but she agreed. He hugged her and promised to return the money within a week. However, he never returned the money and continued to approach Chun-Yi whenever he needed money. After some years, she saw his debut song on TV and texted him to congratulate him, but he didn't reply. She went to his place to meet him, even though he saw her among his many fans, but didn't acknowledge her. She bought a gift for him and went to his apartment in the cold night weather. However, she heard him coming out of the apartment, so she hid behind a wall. At that moment, they were already talking about her. Buyong was telling his friend that a lady from his high school days, whom he used as his personal bank account in the past, was among his fans today. She was one of the 10 bank accounts from which he would get money whenever needed. He had received a lot of money from her, with which she could even buy a luxury car. Chun-Yi overheard this conversation and couldn't help but weep. She went home with tears in her eyes. She wrote a post with an anonymous account, revealing all of Buyong's past photos and exposing his illegal activities, such as assault, underage drinking, and borrowing money without returning it. She posted it on social media, and it quickly went viral. In response, Buyong received a lot of hate. He was kicked out of his band, and his entire career was ruined. In 2009, Chun-Yi also underwent plastic surgery because she wanted to appear prettier. One day, while cheerleading for a company promotion, she spotted Buyong on the street. She approached him and introduced herself as Chun-Yi. However, due to her surgery, he couldn't recognize her. Chun-Yi was touched by his situation at that time. He didn't even have a place to live. They ended up in bed together, and she offered him to stay with her until he found a job, to which Buyong agreed. He didn't seem interested in working, possibly due to being kicked out of the band and his bad reputation. Chun-Yi decided to find a better job to support herself and him. She found a job at a nightclub, where her enhanced looks and figure made her popular. The club owner provided her with thorough guidance for her new job, where she danced and sang for the people, becoming a star at the club. The scene shifts to the present, where Kyungja is still holding her gun on Chun-Yi and demands to know Emomi's whereabouts. Chun-Yi responds, saying that the next part of the story is about her, and asks Kyungja to wait and listen. Then, Emomi arrived at the club as a new dancer under the name Ariam. She was better than Chun-Yi in terms of her looks and dancing skills. She attracted the attention of everyone and even took Chun-Yi's regular clients. She also gained favor with the club owner. One day, Chun-Yi and Emomi confronted each other on a dress. Chun-Yi also accused Emomi of stealing her clients and getting the spotlight that used to belong to Chun-Yi. Chun-Yi slapped Emomi, and Emomi retaliated with a slap. They began fighting until the owner intervened and stopped them. Emomi quickly turned emotional and apologized to Chun-Yi, winning the owner's sympathy. After the owner and Emomi left, Chun-Yi noticed Emomi's necklace on the floor. She took it, and she left the job. In the present, Kyungja questions Chun-Yi's story's authenticity. Chun-Yi responds that she hates Emomi as much as Kyungja does, and offers to confirm Emomi's identity through her breasts. Emomi has real breasts, whereas Chun-Yi has silicone implants. Kyungja agrees to believe her. She asks Chun-Yi to take her to the bar's location. In the morning, Chun-Yi takes her there and speaks to a girl while Kyungja waits in the taxi. Upon returning to the taxi, Chun-Yi informs Kyungja that Emomi has left the job there. She offers to help Kyungja find Emomi, who may be working in another bar, for more money. However, she demands money from Kyungja for that job. Kyungja agrees to her offer and then leaves. After that, she goes to an apartment where Emomi is already present. Here, we come to know that Chun-Yi's story was true, but slightly altered. Chun-Yi and Emomi actually became very good friends during their first meeting. They shared similar pasts, and both had undergone plastic surgery to start a new life. They used to dance and sing together on stage. Even the necklace was given to Chun-Yi by Emomi herself as a gift. One day, when Emomi was absent from the bar, Chun-hee went to her room and found her burning with fever. She asked Emomi to go to the hospital, but Emomi declined. When Chun-hee persisted, Emomi revealed the whole story of Onam's murder, explaining why she couldn't go to the hospital. When Chun-hee went to the bar to inquire about Emomi in front of Kyung-ja, she was actually instructing the girl there to inform anyone searching for Emomi that she had left the job for better pay. So, she was protecting her best friend in reality, and faking her search in front of Kyung-ja. In the present, she tells the whole story to Emomi, and asks her to go somewhere else. But Emomi has nowhere else to go. She can't even return to her mother, as she is not the kind of person who would welcome her. She can't fly to another country because she has no identity. Chun-hee asks her to stay inside for some time, and then they will decide what to do. As she exits the building, we see a man taking photographs of her secretly from a building. After that, she reaches her apartment and finds Buyong sitting there, playing games. He hasn't fed her pet or taken out the trash, which is his daily practice. Buyong is now fed up, but when she asks him to leave, he becomes angry and blames her for his current situation. He claims to have seen the ID on her laptop, which was used to post the photos and posts that ruined his career. Saying this, he violently beats her with a cord. Meanwhile, we see Emomi outside on the road. She stops near a stall to have some food, but the photographer approaches her and says he recognizes her as the masked girl. He says that he can confirm it by looking at her breasts. He introduces himself as Teddy, the owner of her fan club. Emomi asks him to leave, but he doesn't go. Suddenly, she runs from the place and starts vomiting nearby. Teddy follows her, but she threatens him, warning him to leave her alone or she'll kill him. At that, Teddy leaves her and goes on his way. After that, she returns to her apartment and packs her luggage. She is preparing to leave, but Chun-hee arrives just in time and requests to take her along. They both take a taxi and head to Chun-hee's apartment. Chun-hee goes into her room to gather essential items before leaving. She remains silent to avoid waking Buyong from his sleep. She collects some jewelry and her documents in a designer bag. Just as she's about to leave with her pet, Buyong wakes up and begins to beat her harshly. He strikes her forcefully in the face and throws her pet out with his foot. While Buyong is attacking Chun-hee, Emomi arrives from behind and strikes him. He falls to the ground and then starts beating Emomi. Eventually, Emomi manages to wrap a cord around his neck, with one end pulled by herself and the other by Chun-hee. Together, they end his life there. Then they pack his body into a suitcase and take Buyong's car. Meanwhile, Kyung-ja receives messages from Teddy. He has sent pictures of both Chun-hee and Emomi, claiming to reveal the real masked girl. He also informs her that Chun-hee is visiting Emomi, implying betrayal. Kyung-ja quickly rushes to Chun-hee's apartment and sees both women leaving with a suitcase in their car. She decides to follow them. During the ride, Emomi reveals to Chun-hee that she is pregnant and the baby belongs to Onam. Despite the harsh circumstances, she expresses her intention to keep the baby. Emomi explains that she wants to assure her children that they are beautiful, even if they don't possess her level of beauty. She shares her regrets about her own childhood, where her mother never praised her, not even once. After reaching an abandoned place near a lake, they stop the car. Meanwhile, Kyung-ja also stops her car there. She takes out her gun and confronts them, asking if they did the same thing to her son. Chun-hee takes the blame, saying that Kyung-ja's son was a pervert and that she killed him. However, Emomi contradicts her, claiming that she killed Kyung-ja's son, causing confusion. Kyung-ja insists that she's going to kill both of them, regardless of who did it. She points the gun and pulls the trigger, but it doesn't work. She tries again, but the gun still doesn't work. In the meantime, Chun-hee and Emomi rush toward Kyung-ja to stop her, but suddenly, she fires the gun, hitting Chun-hee. Chun-hee falls to the ground, bleeding. Emomi and Kyung-ja engage in a fight, with Kyung-ja initially having the upper hand. However, Chun-hee comes from behind with a large stone and strikes Kyung-ja, killing her instantly. Unfortunately, Chun-hee also dies in Emomi's arms, who weeps profusely over her loss. In the daylight, Emomi places the bodies inside the taxi and dumps them into the lake. In the next scene, we see Emomi wearing a mask as she is taken away by the police officers. When she exits the vehicle, a swarm of photographers awaits her. All the flashes are for her, and every eye is looking at her, just as she once dreamed. However, this is not the situation she dreamed of. Now it is revealed that Emomi confessed everything herself, gaining widespread fame on news channels. Doctors discuss her facial surgeries, and the clothes she wore once became trending fashion items adored by young women. In the courtroom, her lawyer argues that her actions were in self-defense, citing evidence of the man's sexual advances toward her on social media. However, despite this defense, the court sentences her to life in prison. The scene shifts to the past, where Emomi carried her baby to her mother's house. Standing at the gate, she tried to convince her mother to look after the child temporarily, while she planned to obtain a fake passport to flee the country. She wanted someone to take care of her daughter until then. However, her mother refused to help. Ultimately, Emomi left the baby in front of the gate of her mother's house and departed. In the present, Miyamo, the daughter of Emomi, is growing up in her grandmother's house. She shares her mother's passion for makeup, dancing, and singing. However, her grandmother dislikes these habits and often treats Miyamo harshly, reminding her of her mother. At the dining table, Miyamo is taught proper manners, but her grandmother never speaks about her mother. Miyamo dislikes the food prepared at home and prefers food from a stall given by a granny. In school, we see other mothers prevent their children from playing with Miyamo, labeling her as the daughter of the masked girl. Miyamo overhears this and searches for the term masked girl online. On the internet, she discovers her mother's past and also that she is now in prison. After learning the truth, Miyamo puts on a mask and starts dancing in her room like her mother. Her grandmother witnesses this and rebukes her a lot, leading her to kick Miyamo out of the house. Despite Miyamo's apologies, her grandmother remains strict with her. With no place to go, Miyamo sits outside the gate in the rain. Eventually, her grandmother comes out and brings her back inside. In school, Miyamo becomes the subject of mockery as rumors about her mother spread. She confronts her friend, accusing her of spreading the rumors, and ends up hitting her. As a result, her grandmother is called, and Miyamo was expelled from the school. This pattern repeats in every new school she attends, leading to fights that are captured on video and shared on social media. Miyamo becomes known as Masked Girl 2, associated with her mother's violence. Years later, Miyamo enrolls in a new school and tries to avoid trouble. Yu-chan, a girl at the school, attempts to befriend her, but Miyamo consistently ignores her. One day, Miyamo witnesses Yu-chan being bullied by other girls. Though initially she remains indifferent to them, Miyamo intervenes when one of the bullies tries to harm her. She breaks a mirror and grips a broken piece tightly, causing her hand to bleed and scaring off the bullies. Yu-chan tends to her wound and notices other cuts on her wrist, leading to the start of their friendship. Yu-chan confides in Miyamo about her father's alcoholism and abusive behavior towards her mother. Miyamo, in turn, shares the secret of her mother's imprisonment with Yu-chan, but Miyamo also takes a promise from Yu-chan not to share her story with anyone else. As they spend more time together, Yu-chan eventually asks Miyamo about the reason for her mother's imprisonment. Miyamo explains that her grandmother refuses to tell her anything about her mother and hates her very much. Miyamo herself has never seen her mother and desires to leave her grandmother's house, but she lacks the necessary funds to do so. Yu-chan also expresses a desire to leave her own home and live with Miyamo, but she cannot afford to do so. One day, while Yu-chan is feeding her little brother, she notices his baby walker and gets an idea. She decides to sell the walker to a man, earning some money in return. Despite this, they still don't have enough money to leave their homes. Yu-chan then attempts to gather money by convincing a little girl to collect autographed cards from the BTS band. However, while doing so, she encounters the bully girls, who begin to tease her. In an attempt to scare them off, Yu-chan reveals that her friend's mother is in prison. On the other side, Miyamo is in a restaurant where she steals a laptop, but is caught while attempting to flee. The owner hands her over to the police. When her grandmother arrives at the police station, she slaps Miyamo and demands that she leave her home. Overwhelmed with emotion, Miyamo flees from the police station. She tries to seek refuge at Yu-chan's house for the night, but Yu-chan reveals that her father has come home drunk and caused destruction, making it unsafe for Miyamo to stay there. Left with no other option, Miyamo climbs over the wall of her school and spends the night sleeping at her desk. In the morning, Miyamo overhears her classmates discussing the masked girl. They know that Miyamo was the daughter of masked girl and is studying with them at the school. After hearing this, Miyamo flees from the school. While her grandmother searches for her at the school, she cannot find Miyamo. Despite Yu-chan's efforts to locate her after school at all the places where they usually go together, Miyamo remains hidden from all of them. Unable to reach her by phone, Yu-chan returns home with her family, unaware that Miyamo was observing them from a distance. Later, Miyamo calls Yuchun for a meeting, and they meet beneath a bridge. However, Miyamo confronts Yuchun, accusing her of spreading rumors about her mother at school. A fight ensues between them. Finally, an old lady with gray hair is shown observing the entire scene and laughing at it. Upon arriving at the prison, Emomi, known as Mask Girl, quickly gains fame among the inmates due to her plastic surgery. Intrigued by her transformation, the prisoners gather around her and ask questions about her surgeries. In prison, Momi also sees a lady named Unsuk, a powerful figure with influence and authority within the prison walls and outside of the walls. No one can dare mess with her. But after a few days, Emomi finds herself in a confrontation with one of her fellow inmates, a member of Unsuk's gang. In the heat of the moment, Emomi beats her a lot, prompting the guards to intervene and stop them. As punishment for her actions, Emomi is confined to solitary confinement for an extended period. However, she emerges from solitary only to resume her violent behavior, targeting the same inmate repeatedly. The situation escalates until Unsuk steps in to put an end to the conflict by making a peace deal with Emomi. After years of peaceful existence in prison, Emomi receives a letter containing a newspaper article discussing the genetic aspect of violence. The letter serves as a warning that someone is targeting her daughter for revenge, prompting Emomi to devise a plan to escape prison and protect her child. However, her attempt to execute the plan fails, resulting in her being sent back to solitary confinement for over a month. During her time in solitary confinement, Emomi receives a Bible from the warden, which profoundly impacts her life. She undergoes a significant transformation, becoming remarkably polite and spending her days in prayer, finding solace and redemption in her newfound faith. One day, Emomi witnesses Unsuk weeping on a bench, distressed because her daughter requires a kidney transplant, and she is not a compatible donor. Touched by compassion, Emomi approaches Unsuk and offers her own kidney as a donor, as her blood type matches that of Unsuk's daughter. In the next scene, a group of civilians arrives at the prison to teach the inmates. The group includes an old lady with gray hair who approaches Emomi and reveals herself to be Kyung-ja. She had survived the incident in the water and undergone plastic surgery to conceal her identity from Emomi. Kyung-ja explains that she adopted a new identity with a changed name after the incident. Kyung-ja recounts her attempts to locate Emomi, which were unsuccessful as Emomi had been arrested by the police. However, she managed to track down Miyamo, Emomi's daughter, at her grandmother's house. Kyung-ja admits to making Miyamo's life miserable by integrating herself into her life with her altered identity. Initially, Kyung-ja approached Miyamo by posing as a stall vendor, offering her free snacks, and gradually teaching her violence to other people. She also spread rumors about Emomi and her daughter at the school, further increasing Miyamo's struggles. Even after Miyamo and her grandmother relocated, Kyung-ja remained in contact with Miyamo by posing as her granny and continued to manipulate her. She has also interfered in her friendships to make her feel alone. When Miyamo had nowhere else to turn, she sought refuge with Kyung-ja, unaware of her true intentions. Now, she has come to tell the whole story to Emomi because she wants her to feel the pain of being abandoned by her only child. She tells her that she will do the same with Miyamo, as Emomi did with her son Onum. Emomi tries to stop her, but the guards don't let her. She keeps calling out that she is a murderer and that if she leaves the prison, she will commit murder, but no one listens to her. Kyung-ja returns to her home, where Miyamo is waiting for her. She prepares delicious food for her, and also tells her about her son. On the other hand, Emomi seeks Unsuk's help in obtaining her mother's phone number. Meanwhile, the grandmother herself is searching for Miyamo and filing a lost person report for her. However, Miyamo calls her grandmother at Kyung-ja's request and assures her that she is fine and there's no need for a lost person filing. Meanwhile, she receives a call from Emomi, but she hangs up before listening to the full story of her daughter. Emomi then asks Unsuk to get the phone number of the school where Miyamo was studying. Unsuk gives her a number, but she arranges a fake phone call on the other end. As a result, Emomi couldn't talk to her daughter. Emomi then asks Unsuk to somehow obtain a picture of her daughter going to school. However, Unsuk instructs her people to forge a picture of any child to show to Emomi, as she has never seen her daughter before. In reality, Unsuk only wants Emomi to donate a kidney for her daughter, and doesn't genuinely want to help Emomi. Meanwhile, Kyung-ja is purchasing items such as taps, cords, and a camera and then brings all the items home. When she approaches home, she doesn't find Miyamo there, so for a moment, she gets worried. However, Miyamo suddenly appears with a cake, surprising Kyungja on her birthday. Though momentarily touched emotionally, Kyungja sets her emotions aside and continues with her mission. In the next scene, Emomi is seen being transported in an ambulance to the hospital for a kidney transplant. Eun-suk has provided her with some new clothes. Meanwhile, Kyungja prepares a delicious meal for Miyamo and adds an anesthetic powder to the soup. At the dining table, Miyamo again touches her heart by expressing her desire to work and earn money to send her granny on trips and buy new clothes for her. However, Kyungja redirects her focus to the soup. At the same time, Emomi's mother is also trying to find the old lady who used to set up a stall in front of the school. She gets her phone number and address. Initially, she makes a call to her, but Kyungja doesn't respond to her phone. Yoo-chun also approaches her and tells the grandmother that there is something strange about the stall lady. Initially fond of Miyamo, she has now been spreading rumors about the masked girl and her daughter, Miyamo, in the school. This further increases the grandmother's suspicions about the stall owner. So, with Yoo-chun, the grandmother starts her journey towards her in a cab. In the hospital, Emomi plans her escape from the officer's custody. She requests to have a Bible brought to her, explaining that the surgery is quite serious. While one of the officers goes to get her a Bible, she distracts the other by hitting her with the cap of a commode. She steals her phone and shoes, and then jumps out of the hospital window. Despite sustaining injuries during her escape, she continues running from the hospital. Emomi steals a car from a lady and drives away. Using the stolen phone, she calls her mother to ask about Emomi. Her mother informs her that Emomi is with the old lady and also provides the address. The grandmother leaves Yoo-chun behind, as she doesn't want to take her to that dangerous place. However, Yoo-chun hails a taxi and continues her journey towards the location alone. Meanwhile, we see Miyamo bound to a chair with cords, her mouth taped shut. Kyungja is filming her to show the video to Emomi in order to hurt her. Kyungja tells Miyamo everything about what happened to her son and why she is doing all this to her. Miyamo continues her efforts to say something. When Kyungja opens her mouth to let her speak, Miyamo expresses her sorrow for Onam but also says that she wants to live. Kyungja quickly closes her mouth again. Meanwhile, the fuel in Emomi's car runs out. She gets a lift to her destination, but during the ride, the news on the radio reports an escapee whose features match Emomi's. So, Emomi leaves the lift and continues on foot through the woods. The grandmother had already called the police to check on the old lady's house. So, an officer goes to her house to investigate the girl's matter. However, he finds no one there because Kyungja has kept the girl hidden in the basement. After some time, the grandmother arrives. She enters the house without knocking and finds Kyungja coming out of the basement. They confront each other. Meanwhile, Yoo-chun also arrives. The grandmother directs her to go and save Miyamo, while she handles Kyungja by gripping her leg to stop her. Yoo-chun goes down and unties Miyamo. Meanwhile, Kyungja attacks the grandmother with scissors and is about to kill her when Emomi comes from behind and attacks Kyungja, saving her mother. Then Emomi goes down to save her daughter, but Kyungja arrives with a knife in her hand. The knife is already bloodied, indicating that she has already stabbed the grandmother. While Emomi and Kyungja are engaged in a fight, Miyamo and Yoo-chun manage to escape upstairs to save themselves. They find the grandmother in her last moments. She holds Miyamo's hand and apologizes to her before passing away. In the basement, a fierce fight happens between Emomi and Kyungja, with Emomi emerging as the victor. As they exit the house, they notice numerous police cars approaching. When the police arrive, an officer instructs Emomi to raise her hands, and she complies. However, Kyungja emerges from the house with a gun. She is still alive despite sustaining multiple injuries. Seeking to inflict the pain of her child's death upon Emomi, she points the gun at Miyamo and fires, but Emomi steps in front of Miyamo and takes the bullet herself, saving her. The police then shoot Kyungja in the head, ending her life. Emomi also dies due to her injuries in the arms of Miyamo. Miyamo was deeply upset and crying as a result of the events that have occurred in front of her. In the concluding scenes, we see Miyamo and Yoo-chun riding a bicycle together. Yoo-chun's parents become Miyamo's temporary guardians, and both of them appear very happy. Among her mother's old belongings, Miyamo finds some cassettes from her childhood, which she watches with fondness, remembering her mother.